And here we go. We're about to start making paprikash. There's my boneless, skinless thighs, salted, peppered, and a little bit of Hungarian pepper on it. Got my chicken stock. I only use restaurant quality. It's much tastier. Of course, our friend, the lard. And we got about 3 cups of thinly sliced onions. I like to add red pepper. Sweet bell pepper. I like the texture, and it adds a little bit of sweetness. A couple tablespoons of flour. I like to put a little parsley, black pepper, sour cream. Trying to use as old-fashioned European style as you can. Bay leaf. That's Eastern European. A little lemon, minced garlic, and here we go. Okay, and here we go. Our friend, the lard. There we go. A little bit of lard in there. That's our friend. That's good stuff there. How was you gonna get that lard all settled in there? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And we put the chicken pieces in one at a time. Cook on each side about 4 minutes. About 3 minutes each side. 5 minutes total. Now, I like to use lard because it's, well, for one, it's a very nice, authentic flavor. But what we're doing here is we're searing in the meat so that the juices stay inside. I like to use boneless, skinless thighs. It is the tastiest part of the bird. It has a little bit of fat, good flavor. So I'm searing these in. It just makes it a lot easier in the long run, especially if you're trying to serve it to if you're making a large batch for a group. That way everyone gets an even portion and you don't worry who may get a leg or such. And I don't like using breasts because, quite frankly, breasts are pretty much tasteless. So I like to use a boneless, skinless thigh, and it's like we're getting pretty good on that searing, and we're going to keep doing this. Okay, well, our about 3 pounds of chicken is done, and what we're supposed to do is use the lard to now put the onions in and sweat those out. But what I like to do is add a little masło, a little butter, because what isn't good with butter? So we're going to get the onions in there in just a minute. And the onions are in there. You want to turn it down just a little bit. We had it at about 3/4 for the chicken. You want to turn it down just a little bit. Want to coat that with that lard and that butter, of course. And we're going to let those cook for about 10 minutes. Not too long, about 10 minutes. Let them sweat, let them get a little soft. And then the last 3 minutes, I'm going to put in those red pepper and sweat those out a little bit. But it'll be just soft enough and be ready to go into the pot. So here we go on our onions. There we go. And those onions continue to cook, and you can see the bits. Little bits that came from the chicken on that lard, and so you got the little bits in there, so all your flavors are there. They're all melting together and they're all coming together and sharing. So we'll let those onions keep going for about 6 more minutes. 10 minutes total. Okay, it's in the last let's say about 3 minutes, and I added the red pepper with those onions. Look at how those onions really sauteed down, and we don't have smell-o-vision, but they smell really good with that lard and butter. Look at that color. That's really important to paprika. You got to have a little color. Okay, it's been sautéing for about 10 minutes, about 3 minutes with those red peppers. Now we're going to sprinkle in about 2 tablespoons of flour, and that's going to thicken up. That's going to make our sauce. Okay, and then about 1/4 cup of paprika. And that's really never enough because that's the whole point, it's paprikash. And this time I'm going to use a little bit of smoked paprika, just a little bit, kind of just give it a little bit of a zing of its own. And we're going to cook that for a few minutes and let that become more or less our thickening agent. And we're going to put that in the pot pretty soon, and now the real stuff's happening. All right, so we are mixing that flour and paprika mixture for about a minute. For about a minute. Okay. Next phase coming up. Okay, it's been about a minute, and we scraped all the goodies out. We put it in that pot. Okay. So put the onions in there. We're going to put some juices in there, like the chicken stock and such, and man, it's happening. Okay, we're gonna put in about 2 cups. About 2 cups of chicken stock. Like I said, try to use a restaurant quality. For one, it's not as salty, and that's not a flavoring. We're looking for chicken flavor, so get a good chicken base in there, and that's what we need. And but it's really good if you use a restaurant quality. Okay, so we got that. One of my favorite things is garlic. About a tablespoon. Come on, it's relative. I went about a big old heaping tablespoon, so we got that garlic. And then we're going to put in about 2 good bay leaves. Again, Eastern European flavoring. We're going to put about a half a teaspoon of fresh ground pepper. Now, I want to be careful with using pepper. You can easily overdo it, especially if it's fresh. So you want to just do a little bit. You could always add more later. And about a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm using sea salt, so maybe a little bit less because it's kind of powerful. And we're going to let that come to a boil. All right, when it comes to a boil, we're going to add the chicken. And then it's on its final stages. All right, so it is back to a boil. And it is getting thick from the flour, and it's going to get even thicker. So we're going to replace our chicken back into the stock pot. And this is the cool part. I follow a Joy of Cooking recipe as a base, and then plus the years of experience. It says, put all the juices in. Of course! I love it. That's what I love about Eastern European cooking. Nothing goes to waste, and nothing's going to kill us. Because we're Eastern European, damn it. Now we're going to reduce the heat so that it barely bubbles, okay? I'm still controlling the heat a little bit. So we want to let it barely bubble. We're going to put a lid on it. We're going to let that simmer. Let that simmer for about 20-30 minutes. So we have, it's not necessarily boiling, but it's a low bubble, as we said. We want to keep that going for about 20 to 30 minutes. So in the meantime, it's a good time to catch up with some of these dishes. Holy jeez, it's a miracle. No, I did the dishes. So during that 20 or 30 minute simmer time, you want to give it a stir once in a while. Just make sure everything's getting nice and evenly cooked and all sauced up and all the flavors are exchanging. Okay, got about 10 more minutes on that. About 10 more minutes. And by the way, it's not cooking without a little bit of a mess. Kind of spilled some pepper and some herbs over there. So it's time to clean up a little bit while I'm cooking, but still cooking. A few more minutes left on that low boil. That's a little bit high. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. I was just messing with the temperature a little bit. So, whew, lens got a little foggy. I'm going to turn it down a little bit more. Back to almost a low. While that's happening, we're going to put some sour cream next. We're going to temper that. But now, wait a minute. I'm making a Polish Eastern European dish. It's only appropriate that I crack open an icy cold Żywiec Polish beer. One of my favorites. It's actually like a very common beer in Poland. Very tasty. Na zdrowie! All right, it's been about 20-25 minutes. Okay, I'm going by grandma's, my grandma's way. A few minutes of this, a few minutes of that. Maybe about a tablespoon. Now, I use a base recipe, which is from Joy of Cooking, which I'll show you at the end of the video for your own reference. But I mentioned the word, I said temper. We're going to temper that sour cream. Now, I want to add that sour cream, but if we add that sour cream directly, it's going to curdle, it's going to stay chunky and lumpy. So I'm going to get as clean, without as much in it, as much as I can. I'm going to put a couple ladles in there. I'm going to whisk that together so it becomes a creamy consistency, and it'll just blend right into that paprikash, and I'll whisk it up and show you what it's about. Like I said, I'm gonna temper that and whisk it together. See, so that, therefore it doesn't clump up. You see how it's becoming nice and smooth? You don't want a clumping in there because you got chicken in there. How you gotta whisk when there's chicken in there? So you take a little bit out, temper it up. We're going to put it in there. I'm also going to add a couple tablespoons of dry parsley fresh from the garden. I dried it up already from the garden. And I like to put parsley in a lot of things because it gives a nice greeny, fresh flavor. And definitely paprikash is no example. No exception. So there's our tempered sour cream. And look at what we've got here. Beautiful, creamy. It smells so good. Thick chicken paprikash. We'll let that cook. Again, low simmer, a few minutes. Just a few minutes because it's just about ready. And there's one more thing. A couple of drops of fresh lemon juice. I'd say almost a half a lemon is about good. Several drops, it says. Wow. Again, give me options to go big. Guess which route I'm taking. All right, let's give our lemon there. Stir it up. I'm gonna put a lid on this, simmer for about 5 more minutes, and I'm ready to eat. I'm gonna serve this over spatzels, mashed potatoes, cut potatoes, macaroni, whatever. When I lived in Poland, I've seen it all. There are no rules about it. So all that's left to say is na zdrowie I smacznego.